We've had first Eldrazi, yes, but what about second Eldrazi? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another modern video. Today we're going to do a follow-up video from last week. So John sent me two different Eldrazi deck lists, and this week we're going to flip the switch and go a little bit more in the aggro direction, going into Temur colors, and we want the red for Eldrazi Linebreaker. So, at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains haste and gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of Eldrazi you control. And one of the big things that this can allow you to do is get a hasty attack in with something like Sire of the Seven Deaths or Nulldrifter that you couldn't previously do. And if you go and you give that, Sire of Seven Deaths a little bit of a buff and you gain, 9 to 12 life, it's probably going to end the game instantly, literally or effectively. I am not sure how I feel about the build overall. One of the things I said in my last video is that I really wanted to be maxing out on sowing Myco spawns, and this build does not do that. This build doesn't have Glaring Fleshraker for its combo with Kozilek's Command. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And if we are trying to tilt the needle towards being more aggressive, should we be running something like Reality Smasher? I'm not an expert, so I don't really know the answers to that question, but those are some of the things I'm curious about going into the league here. We do have main deck creature disruption this time around in the form of Dismember. And the sideboard is a lot of what we saw in the deck last time around. Lots of artifact-based disruption, although we have Dismembers in the main deck rather than the sideboard this time. So in the conclusion of my previous video, I think I said that I had never hard-casted a Nulldrifter. I think I got Sire of Seven Deaths into play about twice in the league. I said that I was missing... Oh geez, blanking on the name. Deceiver of Reality? No, Devourer of Destinies. I felt like I was missing out on Devourer of Destinies as an early game cantrip and late game exile spell. We'll see how I feel after another league with Eldrazi here. With that being said, let's just go ahead and skip, tentacle our way directly into another Eldrazi league here. Folks, if you end up needing some cards for your Modern or Legacy decks, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAmagic.com. They have something like 90-95% of standard legal cards at any given time in stock, and they tend to have a pretty good selection of older cards as well. Promo code ThrabenU will even save you a little bit on your order, and you always get free online shipping. With that being said, let's battle. Okay, I think I keep this hand, and I think we do kind of an awkward play a 2-2 as a 2-2 attacker sort of thing here. And then pass the turn. We'll have a turn 3 Thought-Knot Seer most of the time. We could turn to it. Lotus Bloom to exile. Opponent is doing unfair things. Cavernous Souls can help out with that a little bit. I don't have another big thing for Thought-Knot Seer here. But we will just get in for 2 damage. And we are probably racing a Lotus Bloom. I'm not sure what sort of combo deck my opponent is playing. I will probably find that out pretty quickly. We have an Archaeologist, which annoyingly walls my 2-2. Alright, Charbelcher. Charbelcher is the answer. Well, shit. Well, we have a couple Ugin's Labyrinths here. Cavern on Eldrazi. Make this sucker uncounterable. And we'll take that Goblin Charbelcher. Yep. Girlfriend has returned with a treat for me. Now at Starbucks. Should theoretically be unstoppable. We're 1 turn away from Lotus Plume coming off of Suspend and wrecking me. So hopefully Goblin Charbelcher being gone means that I'm better off there. Counter unless you pay 1. That's that thing. Disrupting Shoals I don't really care about. Meshi I don't really care about. Alright, I don't really care about most of the stuff that's over there. I think I'm holding this Wasescape Battle Mage. So let's just crash in for our 4. And I will hold the Battle Mage. Maybe I get 2 junk a Charbelcher or something with it at some point. The opponent casts Lotus Bloom. Get rid of that other window. Oh no, opponent's going. There another Belcher? Am I dead? There is Tameshi. The opponent cracks the Lotus Bloom, activates Tameshi, return Lotus Bloom. So that goes back to the battlefield. Then opponent can bounce their other lands to build up some more mana. Got it. They can do this 2 more times, I guess. But where's it going? Opponent goes up to 12 mana. Oh, I see. So now they're going to whir for a Charbelcher and Charbelch me. Okay, got it. Tameshi was slightly scarier than I thought. I'm just going to take a quick look at this deck. I am not familiar with it. What's this? Tap all creatures, pay energy, get stun counters on things. Okay. Thunderclap Trainer, Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, that's good to know about. Okay, so Goblin Charbelcher is the answer. That's how we are winning. So Chalice on 0, good. Trinisphere, good. Disruptor Flute, good. Damping Matrix, good enough, probably? That's probably good enough. I'm in this awkward position where I would like to board 7-drops out of my deck, but they're kind of my acceleration into these pile of hate cards that I am bringing in. So that feels awkward. I'm going to say the It That Heralds the Ends can go. They're just going to get walled. I'll say Sowing Mycospawns can go. They're not disruptive. I'm going to say Dismembers can go. I think this stuff is just more important. And I trim a 7-drop or 2. I feel a little awkward about doing so, because I would like to maximize my chances of doing the thing on turn 1. This is fine. So I'm just going to Chalice on 0 immediately. My opponent has all sorts of counterspells and things over there, so let's just get some of that out of the way. I guess I can play a colorless land on turn 1 in respect of casting a Kozilek's command for X equals 0. I don't really want to do that. I'm going to put that on Eldrazi. I don't think I play Wastegate Battle Mage yet to just start attacking for 2. Okay, so this was the land that was Suppression Ray on the other side. Alright, there's the Trainer. Opponent picks up Consign to Memory. It's about to get a lot worse. We name Eldrazi. I think I am into trying to resolve Trinisphere here. Alright, opponent shocks, drops Harbinger of the Seas. My things that specifically require colorless mana are now really rough to do. So yeah, go ahead and drop this on... Oh, well, I misclicked that. The remainder of that was supposed to be X equals 1. We'll pretend there's a profound reason that I did what I did, such as shutting off future Thunderclap Trainers and Archaeologists. I'll take 3 damage in combat. I do have some larger things that don't require extra colored symbols that I can cast. So this is a good example. Oh, this actually does stuff here, right? Because these are islands. This is blue mana. So I can just cast this to draw 2 cards. Then it gets evoked. Drop another island. Pass the turn. Opponent had something they wanted to do this turn. It is a Whir of Invention for Lotus Bloom. So that 0-drop gets into play around my Chalice. Am I dead? Don't have mana to Disruptor Flute Goblin Charbelcher right now. Alright, so this Tameshi thing is going to happen again. But I have Chalice on 0, so... Oh, it's not casting, it's putting into play, that's right. Alright, so my opponent's going to do that thing again. 12 mana when that's all said and done. 13 mana. Oh, 1 more activation. Yeah, no, there's the Goblin Charbelcher. Well, shit. Harbinger of the Seas did some work there, and we lost to a combo deck with 3 hate pieces in play. Chalice on 1 versus Chalice on 2. Not at all relevant here. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is, in my opinion, the best Magic the Gathering website for hosting your deck lists online. One of my favorite features is that you can create your own custom tags for when you're deck building. So let's say you're building a commander deck and you want to know, hey, how many copy effects do I have? You can just create a tag and sort everything, and there's fun little hotkeys so that you can do this more quickly. So really, please consider checking them out if you are looking to tinker with deck lists online. So in both videos so far, I have felt like I just do not have enough mana in these decks. This is fine. I think I keep it getting rid of Wastecape Battle Mage. I will Gemstone Caverns. I think I get rid of an Unclaimed Territory. I awkwardly don't get to do anything on turn 1 as of right now, but I have turn 2 Uncounterable Thought Not Seer, and we move towards Sire of Seven Deaths. It's slightly unclear to me whether or not it's actually better to Gemstone Caverns or just to keep the extra land in play. I think it's worth it to Gemstone. Is that Kalia? Yeah, that's a Kalia. Okay. Understood. My opponent could, Goryo's Vengeance, Kalia into play, and then put some other monster into play, and I effectively die before I take a game action. That sounds spooky. Do not want. Marsh Flats? That's black mana. I do not like the look of this. It's Thoughtseize instead, so I lose my only relevant card in hand. That's super unfortunate. Yeah. Okay. That's something, at least. I will get Uncounterable Eldrazi Linebreaker, go to Punchies, turn it into a 4-power Haster. Opponent's at 11. I don't need much to get there from here. Top decking a castable creature of some kind, like a Sowing Mycospawn, adds so much power to the next attack step. Otherwise, I need something like a Soul Land to help bridge me towards Sire of Insanity. Sacred Foundry, Shock to 9, Flashback Faithless Looting. That's really good for me. That means that I get another turn of attacks. My opponent could be very, very close to dead. But I am one Lightning Bolt or Flage or Fatal Push type card away from just having 0 power. My opponent discards a land and a Thoughtseize. Hey, that's what I'm looking for. Love that for me. Do I get to kick this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I don't get to kick it. So I will Sowing Mycospawn. I don't think I have anything cool like a Bojuka Bog here. No, I do not. Then I will just get an Eldrazi Temple. Now we go Haste. This is 8 damage, unfortunately. That puts my opponent to 1. So they have a chance to do something stupid and unfair. I will have a hasty Sire of Seven Deaths from hell on my own turn. Can you stabilize at 1 life? Versus 2 Tentacle Boys. Okay, yeah, that is a Flage. So that can kill Eldrazi Linebreaker, which it does. And that means that my opponent will be at 1 again. Basic Swamp. Combat. Send in for 3. Opponent is at 1. I think we are going to go Sire of Seven Deaths over Nulldrifter. The ward on this is just kind of insane. I think that's more important than the Annihilator 1 and draw 2 of Nulldrifter here. Alright, Goryo's Vengeance on Flage instead. You've got it. My opponent can kill Sowing Mycospawn. Then they are ephemerating it, dealing damage to me. I don't understand why we're doing that. You bringing it back again? It's like the Flage could have just attacked to accomplish the same thing. It seems like I just hit my opponent in the face for 7 and they die. This is ward 7 life. Yeah. Okay, I don't get it. So, Relic is fine. How big is Kalia's butt? 3, 4, 2, 2? 2, 2. 1 or 2 people are already in the comment sections being like, how big is Kalia's butt, huh? Relax. Do I want to keep Dismember? I don't really know what my opponent is putting in with Kalia. Dismember doesn't kill Flage. That's a thing. I don't know, maybe I want these still. Maybe I get rid of those. They're not overly impressive. Keep Dismembers in. My opponent's deck also could be playing, smaller things that matter, like a Ragavan or some shit like that I might incidentally answer with Dismember. Again, not a format specialist here. This seems fine. Double Relic on turn 1. I'm into that. Keeperino. They've got a Theater. I've got an Ugin's Labyrinth into Double Relic. They even like their card. Yaw, 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 yaw. And next turn I have uncounterable Eldrazi Linebreaker to back that up. Now, notably, Relic of Progenitus is target player exiles a card from their graveyard, so you don't get to pick like you might with something like Ghost Vacuum. It feels to me like getting to pick the card is kind of a big deal. Like, there's some timelines where, well, fuck me, I guess. Alright. I guess that's knowing what your opponent is going to be playing. Eldrazi. We will play Haste Friend into Haste Friend and deal a lot of damage relatively quickly. And hopefully my opponent does not do something unfair that is stronger than Dismember. Faithless Looting. You wouldn't put anything broken into your graveyard, would you, opponent? Also, how am I this far ahead on clock? Well, those sure aren't unfair things going to the graveyard. That's probably very good for me. I think I was just most afraid of eating a Goryo's Vengeance. My opponent just Grizzlebrands or whatever. My opponent's actually very close to dead. Right? Like, I think if they shock something in and don't play something that impacts the board or stops the second Eldrazi Linebreaker, I think they die. Fear of missing out. 2 card types in graveyard. I will dismember the shit out of that. Absolutely. Eldrazi. Yeah. And yeah. So, combat. You're gonna Solitude. We'll put one of these triggers here. One of these triggers here. Send in with both of these. And before my opponent has a chance to block and absorb any damage, I think I just dismember. I'm not going to allow my opponent to absorb a couple of points of damage and then be able to shock in a land. Well, the Linebreakers are certainly killing my opponent's stuff. Or, well, not their stuff. They are reducing my opponent's life total to 0 in an appropriate timeline. But there's nothing else backing these up here. Don't really want that. Goes on Eldrazi. I'll go to combat. 1 on the right. 1 on the left. It is a Solitude. See if my opponent does any evoke nonsense. They do evoke nonsense. But I'm going to lose both Eldrazi Linebreakers here in a way that's not super great for me. 19 and 22. These triggers go away. Are we drawing cards? Feels like I need to draw cards. So let's return this. Evoke this. Sowing Myco Spawn. I can't kick it next turn. It will be my bridge towards All Is Dust, but that's not very exciting. My opponent now has a window to do something unfair or flashback Faithless Looting or whatever. Land drop. It is a Fear of Missing Out. My opponent successfully draws a card off of that because their hand was just empty. I will take 3. World Breaker. Eldrazi. I will Sowing Myco Spawn. It's fine. Again, just short of being able to kick it. We will be picking up an extra Eldrazi Temple for 2 mana. I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 next turn for World Breaker or All Is Dust, whatever I feel is appropriate. Probably All Is Dust, honestly. And we just see how bad this next turn cycle is for me. Opponent does not have much life. They have an okay board presence. They have an okay graveyard. Like, they have 5 card types plus a Faithless Looting in there. I think I'm favored, but it's a little sweaty. They junk a Goryo's Vengeance. Oh, that is another colored card for All Is Dust to eat. That is great for me. Opponent views this turn. Yeah, I will just take 3. That's totally fine. Kozilek's Command. That's real cool. This is probably just cooler, though. So All Is Dust. This will shut off Stony Silences as well. Poke some things from your graveyard. Next turn, I can properly exile the graveyard. I can't really do that right now. Just shy on mana. I will send in for 3. Opponent is at 4. Facing down some very scary cards on my end. So the fear was, like, Goryo's into Kalia, put in a scary monster. I think we're past that now that my opponent has cast a Faithless Looting. Prismatic Ending not doing much here. A Fear of Missing Out can draw a new card. Elegant Parlor is whatever. And opponent is willing to just concede there. Yeah, honestly, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I fully feel like this deck does not have enough mana in it. Okay, this is whatever. I have 5 mana towards the 7 drops, which is great. And hopefully Kozilek's command just bridges me there. I think I get rid of Wastecape Battlemage. I don't have the colored mana to kick this, and it feels unimpressive as a 2/2 body, and even unimpressive as a 3/3 body. Alright, so Eldrazi Temple, It That Heralds the End, and pass. Godless Shrine, Ocelot Pride. So I am immediately on the defensive here. I am probably just Kozilek's commanding that, but I don't need to make that decision immediately unless I want to push 2 damage. I might just want to push 2 damage. Let's make some spawns. Let's get rid of a cat. I think I just push 2 damage and try to do Sire of Seven Deaths crimes. Opponent's at 16. And these 2 spawns bridge me perfectly to Sire of Seven Deaths on turn 3. Assuming all of my stuff is still here. Opponent's at 13. New Ocelot Pride. More other Ocelot Pride. Yeah, honestly, that is reasonable. 2, 4, 5, 6. Sire. I'm not going to attack into the first strikers here. So, first strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Lifelink, Ward, pay 7 life. What you got? Blood Crypt, 10. Blage is fine. It does mean that my opponent will get some cats. They do gain life. We're not to the City's Blessing yet, so things don't get as crazy as they could possibly get. I think I do the disruptive thing, other than the thing that pushes 1 more damage. Bombardment is probably the scariest thing there, without thinking about it very much. Opponent takes 7. Land is the draw for turn. Opponent's at 5, facing down a Sire of Seven Deaths, which will actually be an 8/8. Not enough stuff in graveyard yet for Flage. Seasoned Pyromancer can do its thing. City's Blessing happens. Opponent did not gain life. Secluded Courtyard is cool. So we put that on Eldrazi. We do 2 mana for an It That Heralds the End. We do 3 mana for an Eldrazi Linebreaker. We're going to go to combat. Let's just put this on the Trampler. I'm not going to do combat math here. I don't think it matters, right? This is just 12. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I guess I can send this in too then. Yeah. That was cool. We just ran our opponent over there. Let's assume Dismember is good. Chalice of the Void is interesting if I do it on turn 1. Otherwise, I'm not the biggest fan of it. There's some stuff over there like Ajani that Disruptor Flute could be okay for. What's not good? Is Wastecape Battlemage actually good despite the fact that my opponent has some enchantments like Goblin Bombardment? It might not actually be good. I don't know, it's just a 2/2 that can get in the way of Ocelot Prides. Probably trim a 7 drop. Yeah, I'm not actually sure if Wastecape Battlemage is good. I want to just cut more 7 drops. I don't think Nulldrifter is super potent here. I think I'm not as great at getting to 7 mana though, which is kind of a big deal because all his dust is such a game ender. I don't know if I can do this. I don't think my deck has enough mana sources in it. So to cut something that interacts with my mana base seems bad. This hand doesn't actually do anything. Like, I don't answer an opposing threat quickly. I can answer a 1-drop on turn 2. I don't know that this is actually good. I think this is worse than like a Dismember start. Yeah, I think with none of these being soul lands, it's not worth keeping that. So this is an aggro hand that hopefully can all his dust later on. I'm okay at blocking opposing creatures. This is fine. I will get rid of 1 Secluded Courtyard here. Oh, great. We're not facing down a 1-drop creature. That means that I start on the offensive rather than the defensive, which is very good for me. All right. Incredibly important decision. What do I put under Ugin's Labyrinth here? I have 4 mana towards it, kind of 5 if you count It That Heralds the End. With the Eldrazi Linebreaker specifically, just trying to kill my opponent with Sire of Seven Deaths is quite good. I think I put all his dust under it. I think I am the beatdown. Hit that heralds the end. Last turn. Marsh Flats. And fetch. Modern Tax, take 2. Modern Tax. Alright, it's Guide of Souls and a follow-up play, which I don't love. So now my opponent gets to make cats. I don't like it. Need colored mana this turn. That goes on Eldrazi. Yeah. Combat. You get Swole. Send in for 6. I think I'm going to keep it that heralds the end back to discourage these attacks. So, oh geez. That's going to get out of control very quickly. Now my opponent can make this fly, so I can't actually block it. All is Dust currently looking better than Sire of Seven Deaths, although both are good. Then these re-trigger. Gross. Ooh. The Ocelot Pride is the scariest thing here. I just make a bunch of spawns. 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5. Spawns. Exile creature. Spawns. Exile creature. Get to do this for X equals 3. Now we go to punchies. The Eldrazi Linebreaker trigger is currently very, very large. I have 5 Eldrazi's. No! My fun. So next turn I have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish mana. I also have this All is Dust chilling that I could potentially take back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I think I'm not going to endanger it that heralds the end in an offensive combat here. Don't think that makes sense. And we'll do what my opponent has to do. That Galvanic Discharge was very, very good for them. Ooh, Flage. That's All is Dust food. That's what that is. Don't Blood Moon me. What the fuck was that? Fear, fire foes. Damage can't be prevented. X damage to target creature. 1 damage to each other creature with the same controller. Okay, got it. I mean, that's good. Name Eldrazi. 2, 4, 5, and 6. I cannot play these. I am 1 mana short. Yeah, Fear, fire foes, like, oddly specifically good against that board. Now I guess the hope is that my opponent does not put Flage into play before I Sire of Seven Deaths. Fuck. So I'm going to take 4 from this attack. Oh, are you getting bonus energy? Oh, you are getting bonus energy. Sure. I mean, I guess that means that you're not flaging this turn. So I guess I am happy about that. But I'm less happy about some of the other stuff that's going on here. Like, flyers might become a very real concern for me. It's 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. I'm at 6. Not great. Like, that's burn. So, land drop, Eldrazi, Sire of Seven Deaths. I think I'm dead, though. Opponent fetches. Just thinning a land, adding a card to graveyard for Flage. I guess you don't care about the ward pay 7 life right now, do you? You are at 21. Like, the multiple Guide of Souls just did too much work here. And then I am dead to this combat damage. So we go to a game 3. Damn. So I've got some options. Like, I can Chalice of the Void when I am on the play. It stops a ton of stuff, but it's a little hard to line up correctly. I could just not Relic of Progenitus on the play and play Chalice instead. Get a little worse against Flage. Maybe reasonable. I probably can't cut any 7 drops if I'm hoping to play Chalice on turn 1. Eyeballing the Nulldrifter in my sideboard. I feel very awkward about this decision. I think this is the decision that I'm making, though. So this hand doesn't do anything. I think it just dies. This hand also does not do anything. I also think that it just dies. This is not looking good. Okay. This Chalice of the Void's on 1 on turn 1. This is perfectly fine. How many cards am I at? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put back 2 of these. That's totally fine. Yeah. So, Ugin's Labyrinth, Imprint, 7 drop, 2 mana, Chalice, and we've really got to hope that that does something impactful. And it very well might. I don't think we're interested in a second one of those immediately, but I might just play one on X equals 2 next turn. I was conceptually planning on putting the Nulldrifter back to hand and just using it as a raw draw 2, just playing Divination. And I technically still could do that. But I think I am probably just shutting off future 2-drops. Annoying. Okay. Now I'm not casting a Chalice for X=2 immediately. I guess let's return the Nulldrifter to my hand, and we'll probably play Divination for my turn. Is that still true? I think that's still true. Eldrazi. Yeah, I think we just cast Divination in hopes of hitting a land drop to work towards 7 mana. Because I need, 7 lands or something very, very close to that to do anything meaningful here. The 4th land drop to be able to shut off 2-drops is a really big deal. I do hit it. There's this. I'm going to try to take 3 points of damage to play Chalice on 2 here, I think. I believe that is acceptable. I may lose the game for this decision when my opponent gets a Planeswalker, but this feels like a reasonable thing to do. It feels like this shuts off most things in my opponent's deck other than Flage. Now, if my opponent attacks me for 3, Flages, kills their Cat Warrior, flips a Johnny, that'll be sweaty. You may surveil. Junking a land. 3 of a kind, Arid Mesa in graveyard. Godless Shrine. Hit me for 3. Is hopefully fine. Fucking stop drawing chalices, Phil. Stop it. I will pass turn. I will end up dismembering the Planeswalker here. That means that I am at 11 life, which is not the greatest. I think on average I draw out of that. Yeah. Take 2. I'm at 11. Another It That Heralds the End. Not doing what I needed to do here. We're looking for a Kozilek's command that is removal. That clears the board while also bridging me to 7 mana. That would be cool. Hopefully I don't just die to a Cat Warrior token. What do you have to cast? Oh, the thing that I was specifically worried about my opponent having. Right. I'm at 6. That's a land. Name Eldrazi. I have 5 mana. These get countered. I can't cast this. Damping Sphere, doing Damping Sphere things. Can't put Chalice on X=3 currently. Opponent has 4 cards in graveyard. Arena of Glory in play. Haste. That's not great. Ah, fuck. They have Arid Mesa, so they can get Flage back. I feel like my opponent has fucked this up. This does not have the Haste Rider on it anymore. So Flage is triggering, but Flage is not attacking. Yeah, so you Flage me. No haste. I go to 3. I go to 1. I'm still drawing live since my opponent messed that up. Mountain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. All his dust is 7 mana. I'm right there, but I don't quite get it. GG's. Well, this is one of the weirdest hands that I've seen in a while. Notably, Gemstone Caverns is legendary, so we could start the game with one of these in play. We wouldn't want to do both. So I could Gemstone Caverns, Junking Gemstone Caverns, play Secluded Courtyard, not be able to draw 2 immediately with Nulldrifter. This doesn't seem great to me. This is fine. It has a lot of outs to be able to turn to Thought-Knot Seer, and since I'm on the draw, I just get 2 looks at a single 7-drop or another Eldrazi Temple. Let me keep their card on top. Sounds good. Cavernous Soul's not what I'm looking for. I don't think I want to just use Kozilek's command as a draw to look for another 7-drop to be able to Thought-Knot Seer immediately. We might just be playing a slower game here. Yeah, that smells like Counterspell. Well, shit, that is something I can play this turn. That sounds good. We might be playing it into a removal spell specifically, but since we are playing around Counterspell, I think I am overall fine with this. We're going to get Haste. We're going to crash in. Hey, we don't run into removal. That's great. And my opponent wastes their mana for a turn cycle. That's also great. So now if my opponent does not have removal spells, they're in for a world of hurt, as I'm going to get a hasty Thought-Knot Seer, followed by another hasty Thought-Knot Seer. Bird land? Sure. Eldrazi. I believe that I am into Thought-Knot Seer here. I don't know what I'm playing against yet, so that information alone is valuable for me. Oh, just straight up old school blue-white control. It's Sphinx's Rev. Opponent has 2 colors. Prismatic Endings aren't doing anything. Snapcaster Mage is their best card as of right now. His Preordain is Selection, whereas Sphinx's Rev is just draw and a life. I'm going to take the Snappy. If my mana situation was slightly different, we could be looking at Kozilek's commanding the... Another Verdict off the top. It's drunk. The opponent gets to draw a card there. 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6? I don't have lethal this turn. I think I just Thought-Knot again. Yeah, I'm just going to Thought-Knot Seer again. And then I'll decide whether or not I am putting something under Nulldrifter. We'll take the thing that directly impacts the board. We will take the Teferi. I think Nulldrifter is going under. Because next turn, to just increase the amount of power that I have on board, I might end up Kozilek's commanding into Hasty Eldrazi Linebreaker for bonus damage. That's going to be Snapcaster Mage into another Preordain. That's fine. What, I want another mana source here so that I can just 4 mana, exile Snapcaster Mage, 3 mana, play Eldrazi Linebreaker with haste. Oh, my opponent likes both of their cards. Now we just do this a little differently. Go exile, Deuter, make Spawns. 2 is fine. 2 is fine. That lets me play around something like a Spell Pierce. Now we will make red mana, pay the 1, and go for lethal. And we get there. So this is slow blue-white control. We would like to take over this game before it goes very long. My Wastegate Battle Mages and my Dismembers are not looking particularly good to me. I could Relic versus Snapcaster. I could Trinisphere for it just being Trinisphere. I could Disruptor Flute because Supreme Verdict in particular is kind of an ass kicker. Alice against cantrips is not crazy. So some amount of this stuff is probably playable. What about All Is Dust? Is that even good? Doesn't really feel like that's very good either. I wish I had more threats to bring in. That's really what I want. I just don't have that here. All Is Dust can hit Planeswalkers. It's possible my opponent has a 3rd color, and then a bunch of tokens from something like 4th Aerlingas. Could be a thing. I think that's modern legal. The biggest boon of All Is Dust is just that it's a 7-drop that goes under Ugin's Labyrinth. Members out, Flutes in, Wastegate Battle Mage is out, Relic of Progenitus in. And we'll see if I regret boarding these out because my opponent has some cool sideboard thingy that hates on my lands or something. This is a singular mana source here. This is not going to do it. Plus I know that Cavern of Souls is hyper valuable in this matchup. Yeah, no. Not good. 5, please. The 5-card hand is perfectly acceptable. Potentially even outright good. Let's see what our opponent's got. Probably just a shock into Preordain. It is. So we're playing Eldrazi Temple on 1. If my opponent passes with actual factual counterspell up, I might just cast a Nulldrifter on my turn and draw 2, rather than deploying Thought-Knot Seer directly into something that I can play around. Yeah, that seems fine. Especially since we have 2 of these. Doing a Consign to Memory? Yes. That's acceptable. I think I prefer that happening on that trigger to the Thought-Knot Seer trigger. Opponent bins a Snapcaster Mage. Makes land drop 3. Well, shit. Apparently I need to Dismember. So Thought-Knot Seer is now very difficult to cast. Nulldrifter is on the table, but I think I just draw some cards here. We now know what hate we need to play around, so I'll adjust my sideboarding for the next game if we don't win this one. This gets evoked. I've made my land drop. Now we've got Disruptor Flute or something like a Teferi or a Jace that comes down, so that's not an actual problem. Although my opponent could Prismatic Ending those away if they're still in the deck. Field of Ruin is good to know about. Hey, it's a Jace. Yeah, no, you can absolutely start Fate Sealing me and not take your immediate value. And I will be happy as a clam casting Disruptor Flute. Yeah. Yeah. Shut off Jace. So Teferi can bounce this out of play so Jace can get an activation. I can recast it on my own turn. I can't recast it on my opponent's turn. Now opponent will just take their brainstorm value. And I'll take 2 from the fish. Ball. Alright. Loot. Name the Jace. Loot. Name the Teferi. We're not very far away from just hard casting Nulldrifter for the full 7 mana. We're not in immediate danger of dying to this. The prismatic ending is annoying. And like I think you can make some argument that you just put this on Jace twice. But the Teferi then getting a bunch of card draw value over time, since I'm not pressuring the Planeswalkers, is also a problem. I also did not know how many prismatic endings were actually going to be in my opponent's deck in the post-sideboard configuration, because they sure don't hit a lot of my stuff. 3, 4, 5, this is 6, so 7 is next turn. Actual factual counterspell is certainly online, but I do just have a draw 2 coming. Notably, opponent does not have white yet, or if that matters for anything. Alright, there's a bunch of prismatic endings apparently. I will take 2. I am at 12. Ooh. Yeah, no, we're doing that instead of Nulldrifter. Bounce this. Oh wait, no, I can't do the colorless kick. I can play Sowing Mycospawn into Thought-Knot Seer, though. Okay. That still sounds great. Consign to Memory on this trigger would sort of suck. Yeah. But now my opponent can replicate this and counter both my triggered ability and my colorless spell. Rough. I think I'm still planning on hardcasting Nulldrifter next turn. So now I can end up taking 4, and my opponent has an active Planeswalker bounce and Jace bounce beyond that. Not great for me. I am at 8. Hit that Herald's the End is not particularly good here, as it does require colorless symbols specifically. Alright. I got my draw 2. I don't imagine that this spell resolves. Oh shit, it does. Cool. The problem here is that my opponent can just do things like bounce or remove this creature, the Sphinx's Rev, and then attack in for 4 twice. And it's not like the Annihilator one is currently a problem. I think we can tap out here. Don't think I'm getting through that. Wastecape Battle Mage is not really the out to Harbinger of the Seas that I want, because it, like, the blue kicker is nice, but it still requires the colorless symbol. And wait, am I misremembering? Do I not have basic wastes in this deck? Ooh, shit, I don't have basic wastes in this deck. That was the previous Eldrazi deck that I was playing. Noted. Alright, I need Dismembers for Harbingers. That probably means that I am not fucking around with relics. And my Disruptor Flutes are much, much worse if my opponent is going to keep Prismatic Ending in their deck. I might just get rid of those. Play something like Relic of Progenitus. Trinisphere is not crazy either. That helps out a lot with like the consigned to memory stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna Trinisphere, I think. This hand is not proactive. I think it's still a keep. So I have a good defensive card. I have a card versus Harbinger of the Seas. I have counterplay versus counterspells. I can top deck a decent number of things to improve this hand. Like, Ugin's Labyrinth lets me Trinisphere a turn earlier. That would be very strong. With something like Eldrazi Linebreaker, I can get pressure up and then back it up with Trinisphere. Even a Nulldrifter as just some card draw is perfectly fine. Yeah, I think there's enough top decks here that are reasonable to good to want to keep this hand. And we'll just lead on Temple and pass. Opponent did take a mulligan to 5. That definitely helps us out a bit. You may surveil. And they like their card. Thought-Knot Seer is fine, but slightly awkward in terms of timing. I will just be passing the turn here. ETB tapped land probably means that I Trinisphere this turn rather than just drop Thought-Knot Seer. Oh, yeah. Let's just try to resolve Trinisphere. This could be consigned to memory, and that would be a little annoying. But it's not. Notably, this is red mana, so Prismatic Ending can now answer Trinisphere. But if my opponent taps out at sorcery speed to answer a Trinisphere and is not dedicating resources towards stopping me towards getting to Sire of Seven Deaths, I think that is overall a positive for me. Field of Ruin, Harbinger. So now we answer Harbinger via Dismember. I am thinking about when I want to do that, because my opponent currently only has islands. I think I just do it now. So this is awkward. So I pay my life. I then have to pay more mana beyond that. And it's gone. Next turn I'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So I will Thought-Knot Seer and then Sire of Seven Deaths the following turn beyond that. Field of Ruin may have something to say about my plans. It's a little rough though. Field of Ruin puts a lot of pressure on my opponent's mana when Trinisphere is also just a thing. Eldrazi. So this is an uncounterable Thought-Knot Seer. That'll do, I guess. Sure, because that exiles it. That doesn't actually counter it. Members are even better than I thought. Next turn I get Sire of Seven Deaths, though. Presumably, I get it. I'm going to take 2 in combat here. A Fragmentize blows up Trinisphere. That is fine. Legendary, I don't want to play that land. Unclaimed Territory. That's uncounterable. I might need more off the top to win this game. It is perfectly reasonable for my opponent to just pay 7 life at this point to get this out of play. I have not succeeded in being an aggro deck this game. 12 cards deep in my deck, and I've only seen 1 creature. Not the best for me. My opponent has been in the tank for a while, and they do eventually go after the Cavern of Souls. I will get a basic forest. I just have another cavern for when I need to make something uncounterable. Field of Ruin. I don't have more basics from here. The opponent might not want to do that. Ugin's Labyrinth is a very bad draw. I have a good jillion keywords on this creature, including Reach, which is why my opponent did not attack with their flyer. Opponent goes to 13. I will just make a land drop here and pass the turn. I will likely lose this game if I do not draw another threat. We're very much leaning on the fact that my opponent has mulligan to 5. There's a threat. That's great. Cryptic commanding me? Oh, it is a Solitude. Sure. That will cost my opponent 7 life, which they are happy to pay right now. I'm wondering if I cast this Thought-Knot Seer without using Cavern of Souls, so that my opponent can't Field of Ruin it, and I can use this Cavern of Souls for a more game-winning creature later. I am going to do that. Yeah, we will take Sphinx's Revelation. What else does this kill? Oh no, it's just artifacts and enchantments that are cheap. Alright, take the Sphinx's Rev. I'm just not going to play out Cavern of Souls until I need to. Hallowed Fountain is the draw, and we're chilling. Belkweller opting not to attack. Fucking A. This is effectively an attack for 1. My opponent can crack back for 3 with Solitude. I don't think I like making that attack accordingly. I also don't like sitting here and doing nothing. I don't feel like that's super favorable to me. That's opponent's top deck. I'm glad they're giving me this information. Am I fine immediately trading for Counterspell? Let's say no. Let's say no. Sometimes I can play around the Counterspell fully. Junking an island. That's another land drop. Opponent is not drawing well. Neither am I. That's uncounterable. That's very good for me. Now am I willing to trade for Counterspell? I think I am now willing to trade for that. Opponent could feel that this is bait and not Counterspell it, and I could get additional value. But I think you just counter it. Alright. Cavern on Eldrazi. Red. Colorless, colorless. Go to combat. We're going in on the Trampley friend here. Possible I just want to attack with Eldrazi Linebreaker to not give my opponent block. Take 4. I'll send in both. The double block, try to draw a card, just runs into me recasting the Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, just some deck thinning. More deck thinning. No basic lands. They get planes. Okay, so we are going for the double block here. Oh, right, I don't have to assign blockers anymore. I think I do kill the Queller. I guess this is not stacked the way that I would like it to be stacked, huh? I take Fragmentize, and then my opponent draws a new card. Maybe I just attack with the Eldrazi Linebreaker there for 5. Still forces a block, but does not give my opponent a redraw. Well, that's very good at drawing lands, though, so we got that going for us. This is the part of the game where them drawing Sphinx's Rev is just devastating. Either way, if my opponent blocks and K command resolves, my opponent is dead. Go haste here. Send him in. Snapcaster Mage. What would you like to target? I'd like to target Counterspell. That doesn't feel like it matters. Exile target creature. Scry X, draw a card. Use Solitude. Seems good. That was certainly a game of Magic. I don't think it was an interesting or compelling one. Like, it's turn 12. I didn't draw threats until very late in the game, and my opponent just drew lands all game after mulliganing to 5. Say Livy. This is a weird hand. I have a bunch of mana. Like, I have 5 mana in this starting hand, but it's not really going anywhere. I'm not sure if I should keep this. I'm going to try keeping it. There's a decent number of solid top decks here. Like, Linebreaker, It That Heralds the End, Thought-Knot, Seer, K-Command, more 7-drops, I think are all fine. I think I just keep this, hoping that Dismember is a live card that I can cast on either turn 1 or turn 2. Scalding Turn. Just like play a DRC or a Ragavan or something that I can kill. Alright. Well, there's my green mana that I need. So Sowing Mycospawn is live next turn. That's nice. Eldrazi. Red-white burn. Opponent's chilling. I'm just gonna like do a quick check to see if Price of Progress randomly became Modern legal. Not legal in Modern. Okay, cool. I will Cavern of Souls on Eldrazi. Don't quite have enough for Kicker here, but we don't really care about Kicker. We just care about getting another Eldrazi Temple. The next turn, I just cast a 7/7 Lifelinker, and hopefully I win the game. 4 damage off Boros Charm. 3rd land drop. 4 damage off Boros Charm. Spectacle. Swift Spear's fine. I do not give a shit about a Swift Spear. 2, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't matter what land drop I play. Let's go Cavern. Eldrazi. Super Lifelinker. I'm holding this creature back. My opponent's life total is irrelevant. I will kill them, air quotes, by gaining 7 life. I'm just going to hold this back in case there is another haste creature played out. Hey, we win. Notably, if my opponent's cards were all live there, I die. That light up the stage goes a little better. I probably also die. Dismember is a very awkward card. I think I'm into Chalice of the Void. This game is just absolutely purely about casting Sire of Seven Deaths. Just 100% that is what the game is about. Most of the other things that I'm doing don't race my opponent. Other than some occasional Eldrazi Linebreaker lines. Chronosphere is interesting. I think I am into it. I think I am not going to play the Dismembers. I think my game plan, if my opponent plays creatures, is just like throw a couple of things in front of them to try to make it out of the first few turns. And again, there's this like Ugin's Labyrinth tension between wanting to power these things out and like not wanting the 7-drops in my deck that I feel very awkward about. I think we're doing that. Do not feel confident about that, but I think we're doing that. I think I want to keep the low-cost creatures. This, I don't really know if it has enough mana to be functional. Like, Chalice is great. Trinisphere is good. I think I can find better. This is a beatdown hand. Weird. I think I keep it. I think I get rid of the Trinisphere. That is a sideboard card for the matchup. Well, not for the matchup. It's a sideboard card that I have boarded in, more accurately. But Eldrazi Temple doesn't make a bonus mana towards it. Let's see. I'm at 17. Understood. That's fine. Now my Eldrazi Linebreaker becomes stronger. Yeah, so the plan is Linebreaker into a large Kozilek's command that just grows the Linebreakers. Ooh, yeah, so I take 3, light up the stage. Oh yeah, Bolt Wave is now a thing. Yeah, that was a really good light up the stage. Cavern, Eldrazi, Linebreaker, Combat, Haste, 7 damage. Opponent is at 11. Land drop. I might take 9 damage this turn. 3? 6? Oh, I get skewered. That's fine. Thought-Knot's here? Yeah, Thought-Knot's here seems fine. Put my opponent to 8. Take a card out of their hand, and then play lethal on my next turn. Oh, those are cards. I will take a Monastery Swiftspear. Yep. Yeah, so opponent is like very much respecting Chalice. They plot a slick shot, show off, and then concede the game. Yeah, no, multiple wear tears is not what my opponent wanted there. Alright, so we went positive this league. I don't know that I feel great about this deck. I feel like my deck identity is in a very weird place. Like, I have all these 7 drops that I'm not ramping towards as hard as I could. I'm, like, trying to be in an aggro role, but I'm not playing things like Reality Smasher that would lean into that aggro role. I feel like a lot of times I just ended up with clunky hands that didn't quite get to do their thing. I had okay agency, and certainly with more matchup knowledge, I probably perform a little bit better. I don't know how I feel about main deck Wastegate Battle Mage. It seemed mid. I don't know that I would have a compelling reason to want to play this competitively. I took a second to look at Eldrazi lists that are doing well, and the Eldrazi lists that are doing well have Talismans to help get out of the early game, have Utopia Sprawl to help get out of the early game, are maxing out on Sowing Myco Spawn. These decks, I think, have a better chance at actually getting to 7 mana and playing the big scary things. So this specific list has a playset of both Worldbreaker and Devourer of Destiny. So this deck plays a few fewer lands, but plays 10 more ramp spells and a 0-cost early game selection spell. I think if I was going to want to be playing Eldrazi, that this is closer to the direction that I would be wanting to go. Your Kozilek's commands get stronger and stronger the more access to mana that you have. And throughout this league, I did not very many times just funnel like 5 mana into Kozilek's command, dig 5 deep, find my next thing to play, make 5 spawns, and then cast it immediately or anything like that. And I think without additional ramp or mana, Kozilek's command is weaker than it could be. I think I would want to take this more rampy and controlling route rather than the aggro route that these last 2 leagues have presented. So that's my ultimate conclusion on these. Alright folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. If you need some cards, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU saves you a little bit. I hope you enjoyed the second league with Eldrazi. See ya!